Before we get into the whether we should side of this story, let's just deal with what we know so far. And that is that West Ham retain an interest in Nottingham Forest central defender and captain Joe Worrell. Now, he's a very, very good player. This is clear for anyone to see. He's one of the most respected and certainly coveted players in the Championship, but we've been after him for quite some time. He is one of the players that David Moyes has highlighted that he wants. Yes, a lot of this is often shrouded in secrecy and on terms of David Moyes' targets, but this one's pretty clear. This much we know. What else do we know? Well, we know that Nottingham Forest are reluctant sellers, but we also know that West Ham have been in for him once before and Nottingham Forest won't stand in his way. In fact, the rumour is that West Ham went in for Joe Worrell at one time or another, but he was disappointed because we pulled the plug and went for Kurt Zouma instead. You can understand why we did that. Let's be honest, all naughtiness aside, in terms of purely playing ability, it's going to be really hard to argue for anybody that Joe Worrell is a better player than Kurt Zouma. The Kurt Zouma transfer, at least on the football pitch, has worked out incredibly well for West Ham. That being said, Worrell has slightly different qualities and an awful lot of leadership skills. And when I heard him being interviewed recently after Nottingham Forest played Liverpool, I was impressed. I listened to that, like, okay, I'm in. I like this guy. If he can play half as well as he speaks, and apparently he can, then this guy would be a good asset and a benefit to West Ham. What else do we know? Well, we know that his parent club, Nottingham Forest, fancy someone at West Ham. And I'm not talking about Karen Brady. No, they are after Many Longelo. Now, this is where it becomes interesting. I suspect that Longelo is not in David Moyes' long-term plans. And the reason I suspect that is because he would find a way to weave him into the squad if he was. We've seen already this season that Perkins has made a couple of appearances off the bench. On one of the occasions, he missed a sitter. Let's be fair, he missed a real sitter. That being said, it really didn't deter Moyes, and since then he's been on the bench on a number of occasions. You can clearly see that this kid is somebody that Moyes thinks in the future, I'm going to go and I'm going to use this boy and he'll be part of the squad. He's also playing really well at a lot of the England junior levels at the moment. He's been converted from a winger to a striker. In many respects, he's learning his craft. That being said, I think the way that Moyes has dealt with Longelo, I think is very, very different. Now, if you remember, we had already qualified, possibly was it Zagreb? It might have been Zagreb. I think we'd already qualified by winning 5 wins out of 5 in the Europa League. We'd qualified, not just qualified from the group, we were the group champions. And as such, Moyes decided to put a load of the youngsters out. Longelo was one of them. I thought he wasn't my player of the match. I thought Elise just pipped him, but he was close. He was up there, and I know he was many other people's man of the match in that game. I thought he played really, really well. Sort of grew in confidence as the game went on. What's not to like? Well, it appears there was something not to like because he didn't really feature again for David Moyes. And what makes it interesting, because there's a little bit of context to add here. We suffered a bit of a left-back crisis at this point because Cresswell was injured and Masuaku was injured for a point. We had very little options. Now you'd think, okay, we'll just move Johnson over to that left-hand side, but this coincided with Soufal also being out. So you had a situation whereby if Soufal is not available, then Johnson plays on the left-hand side. Maybe Fredericks, who has a sketchy injury record, is there. Basically, we're down to the bare bones in fullback positions. Bearing in mind, we've got this kid who looks really promising, who's played well in a European game. It would make sense that he would be involved. He wasn't even on the bench. And there was a couple of times when Elise was on the bench, so it seemed that Moyes almost preferred the option in an emergency if everybody went down. So if Johnson and Fredericks got injured, which meant we had no fullbacks, still Moyes' preferred option off the bench would have been Elise, who's a left-footed centre-back. Now, that doesn't bode particularly well for Longelo. Anyway, Longelo came... Nottingham Forest came in for Longelo in the January transfer window. Apparently we're very close to getting a deal done, but we weren't able to get it over the line. Now, armed with all that information, you now have a situation whereby we want one of their players, they want one of ours, which apparently puts us in the driving seat with a view to getting Joe Worrell. Driving seat's a good place to be, right? Because other clubs want this player. That's a really good thing. However, the dynamic with the player that we may well be giving in part exchange, I think is something we really, really have to look at really carefully, because this is a mistake that we've made in the past, and we do not want to go down this well-trodden path for West Ham. Before I go any further, this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app. You can download the OneFootball app by using that QR code up there or the link. That's why I'm pointing down there. I just pointed down there, I didn't tell you. There's a link underneath in the body of text under this screen. Why should you download the OneFootball app? Well, it is full of stories about your beloved club, West Ham. What it does, it scours the internet and the newspapers for all West Ham stories. Says, I'll take that, I'll take that, I'll take that, I'll take that. That's West Ham. Packages them up, wraps it up, nice little bow. Actually, there's no bow. Puts them in one place for you, delivers them to your phone. Best of all, it's free. So you can tailor the app just to give you the information and news on the clubs that you choose. You don't have to just choose West Ham. If you're a lower league club, you follow an international team, obviously like England, then you can do that as well. Check it out, it's free. The link is in the description below. Here's something I feel we've done wrong up until the point of selling Grady Diangana, by the way, is we sell players very, very badly at West Ham. And what I do want to happen on this occasion is I really feel it's important that we allow that Moyes might get this wrong. Now, Moyes has got things wrong before. There are players in Moyes' history that he has had a chance to sign and hasn't signed because he thought they weren't particularly good players and they've turned out to be good players. Let's insulate ourselves from this. I think Longelo looks a good player. I know a lot of you do too. Moyes, I'm not saying Moyes thinks he's crap, but Moyes might just think he's not at the level that West Ham want to get to. But let's just insulate ourselves. Let's at least put a sell-on clause in there. Let's not, because we are desperate to get this Joe Worrell from Nottingham Forest, let's not let Nottingham Forest pull our pants down with a deal for someone that's come through our academy who looks good. And you can see that here's the thing, you've got to have faith in your academy. You really do. Because the academy's not just about producing players that will play in your first team. It's not just about Rio Ferdinand or Joe Cole or Declan Rice in recent seasons. And of course Ben Johnson. And they're different things, aren't they? Let's be fair. Declan Rice, I know we pinched him off Chelsea. Well, Chelsea released him. We didn't pinch him at all, did we? But Declan Rice has come through the academy. Johnson, look, Declan Rice is going to be one of the best players in the world. If he's not there already, he's very, very close. I think Johnson is going to be a really excellent standard Premier League player, a squad utility man who can cover a lot of positions, who's probably going to play, let's be fair, 30-odd games each season. And that's not a bad place to be in terms of a Premier League player. But they're both successes in terms of the value to the academy. One of them, as I say, is a captain, an international player. The other one's going to save us, I'm talking about Johnson here, an awful lot of money. Because we don't have to go out and buy... Well, he covers 2 or 3 positions. That saves West Ham a lot of money. It means when David Moyes is looking towards next season, think, actually, I've got that covered. I don't have to worry about that aspect of the squad. But there's also another facet to the academy, which is actually players that go on, and Chelsea are very, very good at this. I'm not saying we're at that level, but that's actually monetising the players that then you're not going to keep, you're not going to use. And this is really important, that we make sure that if Longelo does turn out to be a really good player, that what we've done is we have made sure that, okay, look, if you sell him on, we get whatever 20% sell on clause, whatever the case may be. Do something. And it's not just historical reasons that make me worry about it. It's actually recent history as well, because when I look at the deal with Sebastian Haller, that was absolutely horrendous. The figures might be slightly wrong, but I'm about right. I'm not too far away. We bought him for 44 million, something like that. Comes over, does okay in his first season. Does well, in fact, when Pellegrini's here. Then I think Pellegrini's tactics tailed off. I thought the form under the team. Pellegrini had to go. Pellegrini went. David Moyes came in. Sebastian Haller did not fit Sebastian Haller's did not fit David Moyes' style. But just because David Moyes doesn't think Sebastian Haller is compatible with his style doesn't mean that Sebastian Haller is a bad player. Far from it. He's gone and torn it up in the Champions League, and he's done really, really well at Ajax to such an extent that apparently Borussia Dortmund are looking at him, Bayern Munich are looking at him, and Liverpool are looking at him. Don't think Liverpool want to happen, but it doesn't matter. The point is he has the attention of Europe's top clubs again. We almost had too much faith in David Moyes saying he's no good, he won't work. Because if anybody at the club, in terms of the buying and selling department, have had any sort of foresight at all, at the point of negotiating with Ajax, they would have turned around and said, look, we've got this player, you're going to get him here for half the amount we paid for him. We can't allow this deal just to go through like that. We need to insulate ourselves. We need to make sure that if he does as well as we think he might, and certainly you think he will do, which is why you're buying him, then we deserve to get some money back. And I don't care if that's a clause that if he does finish as the Champions League top scorer or something like that, you get an extra 5 million back, or it's a sell-on clause. Whatever it is, during the negotiation, you say, okay, give us a 20 million, that's all you can afford, I get it. But if he does work out, if it does turn out to be a really, really good signing, and you're going to go on and sell him a vast profit, we would like the opportunity to claw back some of that £23 million deficit, which we have with Sebastian Haller. There's a deal there to be made. Most people would be able to negotiate that, particularly if you're saying, just give us the 20 now. This is all stuff for the future if it works out. If it doesn't, no harm done. You've paid us 20. It's all fine. Because it was a bloody cheap deal. And that worries me. The fact that we did that deal then would worry me for going in the future. We're littered. Our past is checkered with bad deals. I don't just mean, sort of all 20 years ago and stuff like that. Under the stewardship of Gold and Sullivan, this cannot be allowed to happen anymore. We've just got to box a little bit smarter. One of the reasons that Chelsea, I believe, will be attractive to new investors, and I say the word investors, is because they make a really good return on the way they run their youth academy and the way they buy and sell, the way they loan players out. They're really, really good at it. I mean, you just got to look at historically some of the transfers that they've done, and they're sensational. I'm not saying we're on that level, but actually $1 million here, a 20% there, a buyout clause there, all these things go towards making up sort of sensible selling, basically. I'm sure ideally we'd all like to keep Longelo, we'd like to see it work out, but we also have to be honest. And if we're honest, if it's Longelo or David Moyes, well, there's no choice. David Moyes has given us, a really good couple of years, hasn't he? Since he's come in. If that's the direction he wants to go, then we've got to trust the manager in that sense. And I think it's fair to say, with almost all of the fullbacks out, Longelo didn't get a chance. There's never going to be a set of circumstances where he does get a chance, should I say. Because that's what David Moyes probably going to go and buy a fullback or two now anyway. I just can't ever see it happening. So, with regret, I think we have to let him go. If it facilitates a deal for Joe Worrell coming in, all the better. Just what we don't want to do is in 4 years' time see Longelo getting sold back to a Premier League club for 15-20 million, and then us as West Ham saying, hold on a second, we gave him away at part exchange with no clauses added on. Just got to box a little bit clever.